welcome to this special broadcast. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. Now, India and the world is undergoing a crisis. And no, it's not COVID-19 I'm talking about. We are talking about life's most basic need, water. But did you know that about 1 billion people cannot do what I just did? 1 billion people live without clean drinking water. It's happening all over the world, especially in developing areas, Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America. It's the water crisis because it starts with water, but it affects everything: education, health, poverty, especially women and children. India is currently facing the biggest crisis in its history. India is suffering from one of the world's worst national water crises. In fact, it is considered the center of a global water and sanitation crisis. The problem is so big that our lives, livelihoods and future hangs in the balance. More than 50% of the population has no access to safe drinking water, and about 2 lakh people die every year for lack of access to safe drinking water. According to the Niti Aayog, this is government data, remember, 21 major cities, this includes Delhi, Bengaluru, Chennai, Hyderabad and others, are racing to a zero groundwater level, and they were supposed to reach this in 2020. Then the pandemic hit us. We don't know where those figures are at this point. While 12% of India's population are already living the day zero scenario. And the future? Well, about that, the Niti Aayog says that by 2030, the country's water demand is projected to be twice the available supply. Let that sink in. Imagine what that would be like. So today, on World Water Day, we discuss why we the people need to talk about water, why we the people should value water, and finally, what we the people can do to avert the water crisis. Now, to take us through this various aspects of the story of water crisis over the next 30 minutes, we are joined by an excellent panel, really. Our partners on this much-needed discussion for World Water Day's Ion Exchange, their chairman and MD, Mr. Rajesh Sharma, is with us. Thank you so much for joining us on NDTV and putting your weight behind such an important issue. To bring a government perspective on this, we've got Mr. Rajiv Ranjan Mishra, who is with us on this very busy day for him, Director General of the MNCG, is the Ministry of Jal Shakti. Our expert on the panel today, Sunita Narayan, needs no introduction really, but she is the Director General for CSC, Treasurer for the Society of Environmental Communications and Editor for Down to Earth. And also providing us a much needed industry perspective is Mr. Sanjay Paul, Vice President Safety, Health and Sustainability for Tata Steel. He's doing some spectacular work and we'll talk about that in just a bit. Also, since the heart of the discussion today is bringing about awareness on the issue of the water crisis, we have we the people joining us virtually, of course. We've got with us lots of young students and college-going students and school-going students. Listen in very carefully, guys, to the program, and towards the end, I'll come to you, and whatever questions you have, we'll address those as well. But let's first get some opening comments from the panel, and let me go to Sunita Narayan here first. Sunita, we may not know it, or a lot of us might not feel it. I mean, us, we might, the country on the whole might not, but every aspect of our society and economy is impacted by the worsening situation. Niti Aayog, like I said, has described it as the worst water crisis in India's history. Could you explain to us in simple terms just how bad is the crisis really?
See, Sonal, the fact is that water shortage touches every part of our lives. I mean, water is about survival, it is about livelihood, it is about economic growth. If you do not have water, you actually don't have the wherewithal to live. Now, I differ a little bit on this notion of the water crisis, because I think we have to understand one thing, that water is the world's most replenishable substance. The fact is it rains every year, and we don't necessarily need to have a day zero. We don't necessarily need to have a water shortage or a crisis. It's in our hands. I mean, just think about it, Sonal. If you go to Cherrapunji, which has the world's highest rainfall, you get a sign there saying water is scarce. But you go to Jaisalmer, where it rains 50 millimeters as against Cherrapunji, which gets 5,000 millimeters, 20,000 millimeters. You can build a whole civilization based on valuing the drop of rain. And I think that's what Indians have understood, the Indian government, the policy has understood, that we can avert the crisis. But it does mean rethinking the way we do water management, making sure that we can harvest and value every drop of water, recharge it in the groundwater that we have, and most importantly, make sure that we do not pollute. Today, our cities take clean water from our rivers and they return to it sewage. And every time we flush, think about the flush being connected to the river, because it is that untreated sewage from our homes which is today killing our rivers. Killing our rivers means that we are losing water bodies. But remember, most importantly, every time we pollute a drop of water, we lose that water, we devalue it. And that is why a city like Agra has invested in a water treatment plant, which is more expensive than a sewage treatment plant, because Agra gets the untreated sewage from Delhi. But I think there is a lot of learning in India, and I think there is a lot of change in the way government is looking at both water in terms of bringing water, managing it, and valuing every drop of it. That proper drop idea, Sonal, is something that is catching up. And we need to give more emphasis on rainwater harvesting, holding every drop, and recycling and reusing every drop of wastewater.
Every drop matters. I think that's the underlining message here. And that's something we've been talking about as well. But before I go to the rest of the panel, let me quickly bring in government voice over here, because that's the heart, right? That tells us where exactly the country will be moving forward. We've got Rajiv Ranjan Mishra joining us. He is Director General for the Ministry of Water Resources. Thank you so much for your time, sir. I understand it's been a very busy day for you. Lots of projects being highlighted by the Prime Minister and all of that happening. Let me first start by asking you, the UN has said that this year the World Water Day will be about dedicated to valuing water. Let me first ask you, what is the value of water in your eyes? Or should I just say, has India just forgotten the value of water?
See, this is a very important day where we all remind ourselves about the importance of water and how we all can contribute for its better management. And the theme of World Water Day is very right, the valuing water. So how we value it, we all know that water is essential for all of us and we cannot survive without water. But exactly what we are doing to manage it sustainably. So that's the question, and this is a day where perhaps we deliberate, we remind ourselves what we have done and what we need to do further in future.
Right. So, you know, it's important to get that message from you, but also to understand that, you know, Namami Gange, the mission that you're heading, really goes beyond just cleaning Ganga. And in opening comments, Sunita talked about that a little bit. Tell us about a more holistic approach towards water that your department and mission is taking at the moment.
You are very right. The way Namami Gange was conceptualized, we tried to look at past experiences and also some of the global best practices of rejuvenating river. And that's why we tried to design it in such a way that it goes beyond just cleaning. Cleaning of course remains a very, very important part and most visible part, but we are trying to look at abatement of pollution is okay, but improving ecology, improving flow in the river, and also very important, doing all these things based upon certain scientific analysis and data. And last but not the least, perhaps the most important is connecting with people. And that's why when you put all of them, so it's not only Nirmal Ganga or Aviral Ganga, it's also Jan Ganga and Gyan Ganga. So I think we are trying to put all of them together in this mission in a very holistic way, and also for the entire basin. So we are not looking at fragmented part of the river or some piecemeal city-centric interventions, rather looking at the entire river and going beyond river, the entire basin.
Right. You know, it's interesting you talked about partnership, because that's pretty much the need of the hour, if I can call it that. People partnership, and it is public partnership. And also, you know, just to add on to that, like I said, it is not just public private, but the fourth P perhaps here is people that is really required. And we've got some very interesting, guests with us, partners with us on the show today. They're also listening, and India Inc. is listening. How do you think they can contribute?
See, my appeal, as you very rightly said, this is a mission which introduced PPP in wastewater management, and what we are calling it a hybrid annuity mode, HAM. It's something very similar to the road sector it was done, but in the water sector, in wastewater sector especially, it was not done earlier. So we have brought it, and again I can tell you, because you asked what exactly is the message to the India Inc. See, there is a lot of responsibility needed to manage water. It's not one body's or one organization's job. So I think corporates can do quite a lot, and they are doing quite a lot. One thing is becoming our partner in construction and maintenance. Second thing is from their own resources, the industry or the business where they are, there are always some water body in the vicinity. Can we look at them? Can we adopt some of them? Can we try to do something to improve their health? Because often we also gain a kind of profit out of living close to a good healthy water body. So what can we give back? And often what happens, people look at industry as a kind of polluting industry. So can we change that image? Can we become more responsible for the industrial effluent?
Okay, and I know I have to let you go. So last question really over here, just to throw some numbers at you at this point. The union budget this time around allocated an additional 50,000 crore to the scheme, but it's an ambitious target really to actually ensure that by 2024 we're able to connect every household to tap water amongst every other things. And to be fair, this is the 12th attempt really to do that. India has failed miserably, if I can say that quite honestly, in the past targets as well. How will your efforts be different this time around? Because there are so many ministries, so many schemes going on. How do we have a collective goal?
You have rightly noted the importance given to the water sector. I will just tell you, in 2019, a new ministry was created to bring integration among different departments and different sectors of water, whether it is drinking water, sanitation or management of irrigation resources or water resources or river rejuvenation. So all of them have been brought together, and this kind of renewed focus, and you have mentioned Jal Jeevan Mission, and I can tell you the way it has taken off, it is amazing, because within less than 2 years we have already reached something like more than 7 crore households getting water connections. So I think the speed is amazing, and that's why there is need to be confident about meeting these targets, as was done in the case of Swachh Bharat Mission. So I think we are moving very, very fast on that.
All right, Mr. Mishra, thank you so much for your time. Happy World Water Day to you, and good luck with all those schemes and targets going forward. All right, on that note, let me bring in Mr. Rajesh Sharma here. Rajesh, water is the crisis altogether is a very complicated subject, but if we could put it out in 3 major buckets, one would be availability of water, second would be the quality of water, the water that is available, the quality and how polluted it is really. Then third is actually water management, storage, recycle, recharge, all of that. Tell me, you're somebody who works very rigorously in this field. What are the possible solutions that are available at hand?
I think you very rightly said, and before that, Sunita ji talked about the resource availability. As a country, we are very fortunate that we get adequate rainfall, and it can really take care of the country needs. But there is a issue of management, and that management issue needs to be really addressed. So first thing is to increase the availability, because a lot of water is just flowing down the rivers into the sea. This is arrested. It can serve the purpose of meeting water needs for many months. Today, our storage in India is only about 30 days, as compared to 900 days in USA and 1800 days in Australia.
Wow.
So first thing is to increase our water storage. And if that is done judiciously, we will have adequate water even when there is a drought. Because water has 2 sides. One is the productive side, and other is the devastation side. Because when there are floods or a drought, then there is a huge problem. So we need to create an emergency storage availability. And that's why storage of water is very important. And she talked about watershed developments and dams and things like that, which we need to do. Second thing is judicious use of water, water conservation. Today, water is being taken as granted. We open the tap and water is available, so it is being used as much as possible. But I think it's time that we realize the importance of water and conserve the use of water. In fact, if we look at our own houses, we can actually manage. The government provides 135 liters of water per day per person, but actually we can manage it in 25 to 30 liters. Balance can be only recycled water, which can be used for toilet flushing, gardening.
That's an excellent point, yeah.
So we can conserve a lot. We can manage with 25 to 30% of fresh water, and 75% can or 70% can be recycled water. And third thing is to conserve, to preserve our freshwater resources. And we must stop sending the polluted water into the rivers and sea. And for that, naturally, an investment is required. Whereas I think the industry is doing their best to put up wastewater treatment plants, recycle water, but a lot of work needs to be done on the municipal infrastructure, because almost 75% of our sewage is untreated and goes to the rivers and sea.
Right, that seems to be the underlining factor here, but lots of important points over there. And on that note, let me bring in Mr. Sanjeev Paul from Tata Steel over here with us. You know, Tata Steel has been doing some path-breaking stuff, Sanjeev, when it comes to sort of prioritizing and salvaging water. It is an industry which is infamous for polluting water. It is an industry which also uses a lot of water. Share with us some of your learnings.
Yeah, Sonal, so the theme by the United Nations this year is valuing water beyond the price of water. And water has been the elixir of life from time immemorial. All our major human civilizations have come on the banks of major rivers, and not without very good reason. Closer home for us in Tata Steel, you know, when our founder, Mr. J.N. Tata, was looking for a site to build the first steel plant of modern India, he did not select a site which was close to raw materials, iron ore or the coal, which are the two major raw materials for making steel, or to the markets. The site he chose was at the confluence of rivers, two rivers, Subarnarekha and Kharkai. Because, as you rightly pointed out, steel is a guzzler for water. And water is something that couldn't have been transported. So that is a site that it chose. Proud to say that in the last 125 odd years, from a guzzler of water, today Tata Steel at Jamshedpur is around one of the best and the most efficient users of water in the world, if not the best. Just 2 decades ago, we were consuming around 20 meter cube per ton of crude steel. Today, with a lot of investment, both within and outside the fence, we have been able to bring that freshwater consumption down to around 3 meter cube per ton of crude steel, which is amongst...
possible. What I'm hearing from you is that it is possible. What about the cost?
See, there is always a cost involved. But as I told, as we are, the United Nations theme, valuing water beyond its price, there is a cost, but there is a cost to sustainability as well. As an industry, we have always felt, as a corporate, we have always felt that we have a responsibility towards society, to give back to society many times over what we take from it. And we need a license to operate within the society that we are working in.
Right.
Consuming more water by industry.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you talked about the water and the cost of it. And I know Rajesh and I have discussed this earlier before the program about how exactly the impact comes. And Rajesh, why don't you take that question? And also perhaps lay down for our viewers the connection water has to GDP. I don't think a lot of people understand that.
I think as we all said, we can't live without water. So if water is in our life, it is an integral part of our life. So the GDP, GDP of any country is directly linked to the resource availability. And water is a major resource. So if you look at all the developed countries in the world, they've invested huge amount of money in creating a sound infrastructure for water storage, water treatment, water supplies, and very importantly, institutions to manage the water. So the countries which have invested a huge amount of money, their GDPs are very high. And the countries which are not able to get sufficient quantity of water, which are dependent on the rain variability, their GDPs are very low. And if they have a drought, it wipes off the GDP by at least 10% every year for next 10 years. So this kind of linkage is there with the GDP. So the countries have gone, which have gone for water security, where the water is enough and it can be, a good quality water can be provided, those countries' GDP is really good. So it is a direct linkage.
Right.
To your next question, I think Sanjeev also talked about it, the water, there are two things in terms of valuing water. One is availability, second is the quality. Now, when it comes to industry, I think availability itself is a big question mark. Today, in water, in terms of availability, there is a competition. There is a competition between human consumption, food production, and industry. So if you look at that, industry comes in the last. So for industry, it is very important they try and conserve as much as possible freshwater use and go for recycled water.
Right. Important points over there. Let me put a pause over here for a minute, Rajesh, and quickly, this is a good time to actually get some questions from the audience as well. Please go ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Studies show that 1 out of every 5 kids globally do not meet their daily requirements of water. Now, the increase in population is inevitable. How would you tackle a problem like that then?
Right. Another question, please. Then we'll quickly get the responses.
Yeah, I have a question. Like, when it comes to water scarcity and associated plague of water shortage eruption around the globe, we have so much data and information that gives us clear message about the present condition. Yet the world is facing such problems. What is your view on that?
Well, I'm glad somebody said that. Sunita, do you want to answer those questions?
Well, I think, Sonal, a lot of the problems are the kind of conversation we're having today. I mean, the fact is, I'm hearing too many sort of things which make me feel that, industry and, investment and heavy investment is what is needed in water supply. Actually, I would argue that we need a very different kind of investment in both water supply and waste management. And I think Indian industry plus the water supply industry has been part of the problem because they have pushed big supply pipe and pump projects in our cities which are unaffordable for large numbers of people, which are actually leading to the crisis of pollution. Just think about it today. The kind of investment that the rest of the world has done, which Rajesh just talked about, is investment which has brought water from long distances, and that has to its cities, which has led to huge amount of distribution losses, what is called non-revenue loss today. That non-revenue loss means that the water becomes unaffordable for large numbers. Ask anyone on your panel, what do they know about the water bill that they pay? The fact is that the cost of water that is charged to you by your water supply agency, the cost is much higher to the agency because they have to bring water long distances. Right. There is the cost of energy.
And thus
there
the
is
need,
the cost of infrastructure.
and thus the need to perhaps go back to what Rajesh was saying about ensuring that not all water has to be fresh water, right? A lot of the usage can also actually be...
The point is that's not what industry has done. That's not what the water supply industry has worked towards. We have worked towards a wastage system. We have worked towards degrading the water. So I'm glad to hear both industry, both Rajeshji as well as from Tata Steel. And I do know that Tata Steel work is exemplary in this, that there is an effort now to recycle and reuse. Right. But this has to be part of the mantra.
All right. On that note, I'm completely out of time. Thank you all so much for bringing us your much valued opinion and your expertise on this. To our panel and to all our audience as well, thank you so much for joining. The endeavor was to try and bring the message to you that we the people really need to care about water. I hope that's come across. This is something we'll keep following right here on NDTV. Thanks for watching.